one of the tools we're going through today is called maximizing team performance. So in your mind, think about one of your teams at work or in one of your circles of influence, but predominantly at work. And we call this the flywheel tool. And it's because flywheels work. Eddie, I feel like you would give us a great description of what a flywheel is.
Yes. Well, let me tell you this. We have these different areas of influence, right? Self, family, team, organization, and community. If you think of one outside of that circle, please let us know. I think this has been pretty exhaustive for us of just realizing most fit within self, most things fit within family, most things fit within team, organization, or community. And so today we're going to focus in on team specifically. And so as we do that, feel free to take screenshots. We'll send you the recording after. But as we focus on team, this is what looking and focusing in on your team looks like. Communication is, hey, what does that conversation, what is the relationship, what is the trust level in that communication as a team, right? You might have 5 different people working on a project. For you, Richie, it might be production. For Kylie, it might be different process and steps in a cleaning service. For me also, whether it might be different companies or leadership that we're doing in, who is part of what team and what project that we're working on. And so the world that we live in, we might have different teams, but pick one as we're thinking through this, right? I'll pick one, which is media here eventually, one for media that we're doing. But communication, right? How much trust is there in that communication, in that relationship? What's the rhythm of communication and how does that happen? Moving to relationship, right? Communication leads to relationship. How is the relationship, right? Is there a working relationship and an outside relationship? Does the relationship at work itself, is that a good relationship? Has there been a good track record of success together? Are there good emotions and thoughts connected to people, right? And then we have alignment. Alignment is, are we all on the same page as to who does what, when, how, right? And does it feel like we're all headed in one direction? And then execution, right? How much do we do as a team? What's the volume that we put out? What's the income that we bring in? What's the amount of sales that we have? Whatever that might look like for you. What's the number of, customers served per week, whether it be coffee or houses or videos, and then capacity, right? How much are we actually able to do together? How much capacity do we have to grow, right? Do we have the ability to scale, right? And so as you think about your team today, this is the flywheel, trying to get essentially 1 to 100, each one of them to 100. You even those out, or average those out, then you have your middle number or percentage.
Yep. Let's get into that right now then. Great job. Thank you. Man, you went over and above. Thank you. A flywheel is something within mechanics that it's really difficult to get started at first. But once you get a little bit of momentum, once you can get that, when you've pushed a dead car in the middle of the street to get it out of the way, once you get it rolling, it's rolling. And you have to actually have somebody on the brakes to stop it eventually. And so the same principles apply within our teams. And it really requires good leadership to be able to identify what's causing our team to perform sluggishly right now. Have you ever thought through one of your teams, so you're thinking of your team at work, what causes your sluggish performance? And what causes your team to undermine its own influence? 85% of executives say that they blame internal factors for their poor performance over external factors that are outside of their control. Like when you let that sit, and also 60%, that quote comes from the founder's mentality, that stat. But also 60%, Google has done a bunch of research on team performance, and they say 60% of teams, or the majority of teams, operate at 60% performance, not 100 or even 80. 60% is the ceiling for most teams. And how do we get there? Well, this assessment really helps us out when we can identify Google has researched and shown these 5 categories are the greatest categories to look at when it comes to performance. Communication, rate yourself 1 to 100 on those different boxes. Is there drama? Is there anything here? Relationships, keep in mind mistrust there. Turf wars, toxic environments, alignment. And then what's the last 2, Eddie? Execution, capacity, right? Unmet goals, missed budgets, missed deadlines, undermining influence. We're damaging our credibility because we're not executing well. Or maybe we're crushing that one. And then capacity. So the key for this is, and you could go to the next one too. I think it's or go back to the flywheel. The key here to this tool is that communication and relationships are the root of all the other categories. If our communication is off, we're going to sow poor relationships. If we don't know ourselves, if we don't know our voices, how we lead, how we support, how we challenge, how we call up, not call out, if we're not using the communication code, if we're not using provision, plan, promise, if we're not understanding the 5 gears and using the language, common language, we like to use the 5 gears to help with communication, then relationships are going to struggle, and it's going to breed mistrust. And if you don't have trust, or what different behavioral psychologists call psychological safety on your team or in your family, even if there's no psychological safety, we're not going to take risks. We're going to be afraid to fail. And I found a list of consequences to this, because nobody wants to look ignorant. We don't ask questions. Because nobody wants to look incompetent. We don't admit weakness or our mistakes. Because nobody wants to look intrusive. We don't offer ideas. And if there's no psychological safety, we definitely don't want to be the negative Nancy in the room, or negative Norm, and we don't want to critique the status quo. And so all these things, if we're stuck with poor communication, if we're stuck with poor relationships, because we've undermined our influence, or because we haven't created or fostered a environment where people can thrive and grow and be trusted to bring up issues that need to be focused on, then we're not going to be aligned, and we're not going to execute, and we're not going to be fulfilling the capacity that we could be. Teams are at 60% capacity, essentially. So focusing on those, here's how we do it. We ask the question. So here's how you can use the assessment. Ask these questions of your team. How do you rate your overall percentage? Which of the 5 areas did you rate the lowest? Answer why. Do you feel like another area is contributing to the lowest rating? How so? And what are you currently doing to solve it? Here's the tough one. What happens if we don't address it? What would be
something?
Yeah.
Something really, really, to make it really real for you right now. We like to take pride in our 20-minute to win it type of mentality. So we have 8 minutes left. Hey guys, let's go through it, right? Communication, right? Take Richie, take your team. I'm not going to make you walk through it with us, but you write it down. Kylie, write it down. Lynn, write it down. Mom, Floor, write it down. You know what I mean? Take your team for communication. If you have to rate your team on communication 1 to 100, right? And now every time that there's drama or unnecessary conflict or inefficiency or dropping the ball, take 10 or 15% off of from your 100%. So if there's any of these, what would you rate it 1 to 100? Go ahead, put down communication, rate it right next to it. Write down a 1 to 100. You can just go off, your gut too. All right, we all got that one? Good. Relationship. Let's write that one to 100. All right. How good is relationship in your team? But is there gossip? Is there mistrust? Is there turf wars? Is there toxic environments? make sure to take some stuff off. Now we're talking internally to the team. Your team might be in really toxic environments as a team, but your team might be unscathed, right? That's okay. But if there's toxic environments within the team, is there turf wars within the team, right? Nothing's better for a team than when there's a turf war with another team. That's great. We're going to get close, but when there's a turf war within the team, what would you rate a relationship with your team 1 to 100? Put a little extra 10 if you've gone to top golf together. Take 10 off if there's toxic environments. All right, I'll give you a couple of seconds. If you've eaten tacos together, goes up. Cold plunges together, goes up. Had beef yesterday over something that really needed to be hashed out because it's going to make it better. It goes up. Why? Because tension is not making it bad. Tension is making it good. It's getting better, right? Relationship requires tension, and that tension is so good. Alignment, next one. Is there wasted effort? Is there duplicate work? Is there lost time? Is there division? What would you rate your team 1 to 100? This one's a little harder than the first two, so I'll give you an extra few seconds. All right, the fourth one is execution, 1 to 100. Do you have some unmet goals? Have you blown some budgets? Blown up some budgets? Have you damaged credibility as a team? Have you missed some deadlines, right? Your team might be just you and another person. It might be you and 3 or 5 other people. It might be you and 20 people, but whatever your team looks like, what's that 1 to 100? And then the last one is capacity. Some of your people, are they burnt out? Are you burnt out? Do you have turnover? Are there some missed opportunities? Is there some stagnation? If so, take some 10s off, 1 to 100. And now we add up all 5, and then we divide them by 5, and that is your percentage.
So you can see one of our goals here is to advance your knowledge with immediately practical application that you can take with you.
John, will you ask us those questions again now that we have a percentage? Right,
that's great.
I'm at 82%.
So add them up, divide by 500. So 1 to 100, add up, divide by 500. You get your percentage, and then ask. So write that down. What's your overall percentage? Which of the 5 areas did you rate the lowest?
You add up. You divide by 5.
And then you will answer why. Do you feel like another area is contributing to that lowest area? If so, how? And what are you currently doing to solve it? And what will happen if you don't? And that's where we sit in the pain. And we discuss very clearly with our team what could happen. And we create a solution together. And we create ownership from every person on the team. And it's now shared. It's not just yours.
Even if you're a team of 1, this still applies, because you can work on you as in your capacity, you in your execution, you're in your alignment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
If you work with your spouse, this is also is just you and your spouse, and how are you guys do as you guys work on a project together, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
This safety, this psychological safety, is at the root. And I don't come from a generation that had cry rooms on my college campus. And we have to understand that this is a very real thing that people bring into work. We all know this. Emotional leakage, they call it, right? And we bring that into our other teams. And being a leader who is aware of how to know themselves, lead themselves, grow in health, and help your people grow in their health. If you know your people, you know how to target the different areas within those individuals. Maybe your team through it individually. Do they excel in these areas? If not, how can we do that? This would be a good resource for your follow-up or check-ins with your people. See what they think, and then start building a holistic assessment of your team. So yeah, any takeaways, any questions for our last minute and a half?
If we get this right, if we hunker down on the flywheel, I think that we can have better relationships, meaningful relationships within our teams. We can have higher trust. We can have better points of tension that lead to progress. We can have better clarity in that alignment of what it would look like to know what my role is in this team. And ultimately, that leads to a better productivity and hope that our team can do more long-term, that we have the capacity to not only grow as individuals, but grow as a team. And that hope, it leads to a lot of purpose as well, because when you are good at something on your own, it leads to purpose, right? We have some people in this space, that are really, Richie's really good at what he does. One of the best video project managers now, producers that I know. It's as you are good at what you do, then you want to continue to do that. And then as you continue to be good as a team, you have a lethal team, right? Just to able to execute so well. That creates high purpose, because you're like, hey, not only am I good as an individual, we're good as a team. And there's a lot of purpose connected to being part of a highly effective, productive team. So we want that for you.